Good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. My name is Jasper Dent, and I'm the events coordinator for McNally Robinson, Saskatoon. This event is being held on Treaty 6 territory. This is the land of the Cree, Dene, Saulteaux, Dakota, Nakota, and Lakota, and homeland of the Métis Nation. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Saskatoon launch of How I Bend Into More by Tea Gerbeza, published by Palimpsest Press. Also joining us tonight as special guest is Elena Bentley. Thank you to both Taya and Elena for being here tonight and for making this event happen. Just to note that this event is being live streamed, so please be aware of the web camera up to your right here. Won't be filming the audience, just the stage portion here. I'd also like to take this moment to encourage you all to silence or turn off your phones for the duration of the event. If you'd like to buy copies of How I Bend Into More, we have some up here on the signing table and also on the desk by where you first walked in. You're welcome to get your copy signed before you purchase it. Just please do remember to stop by the cash desk on your way out. And now I'd like to introduce our guest host for the evening, Elena Bentley. Elena is a multi-genre writer, editor, and proud Métis auntie. She recently made the 2024 CBC Poetry Prize longlist for her poem Citrus Streams. Her poetry chapbook, Taliped, was a finalist in the 2022 Vallum Chapbook Award and was recently published by 845 or 845 Press? One of the two. Her poems can be found in literary journals like Arc Poetry, Room, the Malahat Review, Prism International, and Poetry Pause, among others. And she's also the editor for Grain Magazine. Everyone, please give Elena a very warm welcome.
Thanks, Jasper. I feel uncomfortable with that bio because we're not here for me. We're here for Taya. This is Taya's night, right? So welcome, Tanche, Elena, Dishinikashun. My name is Elena, and I am so excited to be here to help launch my very special friend's book into the world. I always start by saying how grateful I am to have the health and strength to be here. So Taya asked me to personalize her intro. So I met Taya at university when I had taken a break and had gone back to the U of R, and we met in the amazing Sherry Benning's expository writing class. And I can be kind of prickly, I think. I'm not the most approachable sometimes, especially when I'm in class. I want to sit by myself. I pick a chair away from other people, just let me focus. But that's not Taya's way. Taya sat beside me, and she was very persistent in bursting my bubble every day. But she did burst, and I'm so thankful that she did. And I told her, once you're in, you're in. This is it, right? And right from those early days, I recognized how talented Taya is. I was and still am quite jealous of her poetic abilities. It's been such a pleasure watching her go from undergrad through her master's in English and creative writing at the U of R, then through her MFA at the U of S, then transitioned to working for the Saskatchewan Writers Guild. So Taya is a poet and a writer and a quill artist, and she also champions art and writing in this Saskatchewan community. And not only is she a stellar event planner, but she always extends her care to accessibility and inclusivity, which is really important. She is the embodiment of creativity and an example of what creating a life of art looks like. Not to mention, she's one of the kindest people I've ever met. So, so I'm so proud of her. I'm so happy to be here tonight. It's very cool to watch this book go from draft to the real thing. And before we listen to Taya, because that's why we're here, she's asked me to read some of my work, so I will oblige. And a poet friend recently told me at a reading that when I sat back down that they can almost recite my poems now. So I took the hint. I won't point them out, but they're here. I've drafted 2 new poems never before heard. I like to choose things that are published or like published and polished and workshopped. So, you know, here we go. Please heal me. Not with crystals left to soak in the moon, oils with essential TikTok tinctures, castor plasters, dandelion root tea. No, I don't need WebMD. How much vitamin D did Google say was safe? Never mind. When I ask you to please heal me, I mean literally, not with prayer, heart eye emojis, X's and O's. No, I don't need to ask a friend's brother's second cousin to refer me for Reiki massage. Yes, I'll consider acupuncture, cupping, not the chiropractor. Though we're getting deeper, closer to what I really need, which is to say, please lay your head on my chest, your cheek cushioned by sternum and breast. Relaxed, the gentle force of your diaphragm lifts and falls your lungs. Your breath plays the laryngeals, the chords, and your vibrations, soft at first, like eyelash kisses, become thicker, like white noise at the end of a spinning record. Reach me, pass through bone, muscle, tissue, a frequency Hertz didn't imagine could be healing, in short bursts, until hunger pangs again and you push your paw onto my chin. Yes, I'll refill your food dish. It's a small world. It's a small world, after all. My world feels small sometimes. Looks small from the seat of my royal blue mobility scooter, or from the inside of my living room window. There's a family of magpies. I don't know if it's the same mischief every year, but they swoop into the fir tree about the time when spring snows melt and velvet green moss warms the ground around the trunk. I squint through prickles and bows, hoping to glimpse a feather, a hint of cerulean, to make contact, dare I say, make a friend. I leave bits of twine and ribbon. This is silly, isn't it? These desperate gifts for affection. It's clear I've become my grandmother. Not just in the gray hair streaking dark blonde, the curls, though mine aren't Tony, or the slight gap between my front teeth, thick build like her, though I'm not as substantially chested. It's not the love for magpies, red-bellied sparrows, barn swallows, sparrowhawks, the purple martins or the meadowlark, those avian farm squatters. It's the pain, the stiffness, the aches, the barometer I've inherited in my knees. It's the world, small after all. The cold that gets into my bones, she'd say, wearing slippers in July. The foot drop, the atrophy, the bruises and scrapes. My world has become smaller, each diagnosis bringing me closer to home, back to the farm, where I get angry at my grandmother's stubbornness, her unwillingness to accept care. And after all, I realize I'm not like her. Sat in this mobility scooter, bundled with toque, knitted siwash and blanket, watching the magpies come and go from their fir tree in my small world, after all. And that's it for me. And now, who you've actually been waiting for? Please join me in giving the warmest of welcomes to my special friend, Tea Gerbeza.
Thank you, Elena, for those amazing poems. I remember when we first met, I mean, your love is all over this book, and our conversations around our hurting bodies and disability poetry and how much pain just sucks is all over here. But I remember I performed at a conference. It was my first conference, and I read some poems, very early poems that are in this book. And Elena came up to me after and was like, I didn't know that we were the same. Like, we were here together and we didn't even know, and now we did. And I think that was something that was really special. And something I hold dear to my heart. So thank you. And thank you all for coming. It's so nice to see all of you. I think this is the most emotional I've gotten. I think my persona is kind of crumbling a little bit. Reader Taya needs to be here so I don't start crying. So this is a long poem. So I'll read from beginning, middle to the end, because typically you'd want to read this from cover to cover for it to make sense. If things don't make sense, it's because you haven't read the page before that I've been reading. So I'll just get into it, but thank you all for coming. 12 a.m. on the 9th anniversary of my spinal fusion. Naked on my bed, whole body bent, scalene. 45 degrees, I measure my dark room. Eyes closed, my fingertips, my mirrors, trace the crescent, overlap of skin over skin, and unsolved space. Curling to child's pose, I lengthen, lean into parentheticals. My body's rotational dynamics, another language, wanting to be opened, to belong to me. I make a pact, use touch for answers, feel skin, even calloused patches shimmer, our stars flaking into air. How have I not noticed this before? My own quilled shape, a half moon. Papery edges, feet swollen. At my own pace, I build a circuitry for repair, for what my body remembers. How do I grasp what my body has to tell me? Beginning, 1999, a walk-in clinic. 4 years after escape from Yugoslavian civil war. 4 years after confrontations with death. My parents believe my surgery worse than war. Visiting my parents, I explore my childhood home for memory relics. In the laundry room, my brace tucked away, I bring it out, sit brace at the kitchen table. My father sees the plastic cocoon. This was always my headache. Daddy, it hurts. Can I take off? The doctor listened to your breathing when he noticed, said to me, she has curve. Etiology of scoliosis. Oldest known deformity. S's anatomy seeds my mother's belief. S from breech birth. From the laughter of the guard stationed at the Musica Scola, where she negotiated my father's release. From the touch on her protruding belly by the same guard, offering to deliver me on a table. But there my father was supposed to die. Then we can kill your baby in front of you. Probai. Surgery worse than war. False S's, past is genetic, but no link scientifically to cause. Its loneliness secret and self-contained. Idiopathic. From my side ribs, branches extend, right shoulder blade lifts, reaches abnormal lateral bend. From the Greek crookedness of body, a winding white column. Clearing up the question about my suffering. If suffering is private, then why should I explain? If I explain, do I start from my head to my toes? Unearthed misfit garden, muscle grind shoulder blade higher. asymmetric, center spasms, feather weeds, lower back. If everything starts with my spine, then my spine is the root of my suffering. If my spine is the root of my suffering, then someone can fix the problem, remove pieces. If someone removes my spine, then my core is ready for replacement. Rid me of my suffering. Pluck the white. Watch my column soar across the room. Hear it clatter, break form. If I rid my suffering, then will I still be me? And then this page is a visual scanograph of quilled S and C scrolls, and it says, from strips scrolled vertebral bodies. And then I'm gonna skip to the surgery section. Steps for making a paper rose or spinal fusion. It's an image of flower petals that I made from a paper flower of a rendition of my surgery that my mom wrote, which appears in the book as well. When opened, cut one vertebrae off, 5 will be left. Remember to carve out a flap before snipping off excess. Take your bone folder and curl edges of the remaining bloom. Don't pull too hard or the paper will rip. Keep the fallen petals for the rose's core. To make the center arc fold tips toward heart. Place inside another, secure with 2 titanium rods to prevent losing one in a breeze. Prevent losing control. Secure under paper flesh to scroll center C. Grip dowel hard between paper thumb and index. Move inward a small blossom. Stacks well with others. In paused space between letters is another I. Looped, looped, my chrysalis cracks. My chrysalis cracks. Sometimes, when curling mid-blossom, petal rips, complicates the rest of the procedure. 16 hours in surgery, surgeon appears, tells my parents, there has been a complication with Tea's surgery, spinal cord signal. If you believe in God, pray she wakes up. Dragi Bože, pomozi joj, ona to nije zaslužila. All machines in the hospital, a collective beating heart. I told her everything would be okay. Daddy promised. And there's a flat line. Code blue stills my heart, or my chest, sorry. Also that, I guess. Defibrillation prisms lead me to awakened static between my revival and stillness. When hands insist my resuscitation, when excess refuses solution, when translation traces a flat line, I dream a yellow dress. Lace. Code blue beats. There's a lot visually happening between some of these pages, so I apologize, I can't really read that. But I hope you enjoy it if you read the book. If you believe in God, pray she wakes up. I didn't see God, spun in yellow dress, endless circles, sewn bodily memory, cut up poems. Air carries pain. Wake pushing pain chest, alive. Somewhere, my father breathes. I'm so sorry, my girl. Somewhere, curled body petal, rips, wakes. Few weeks after surgery. Feel the new height at the kitchen counter. Stand, Two titanium rods fused with your vertebral column. You split from yourself. Hold one with, hold one without. What this body was. You cry, loosening the dress you put on for the first time, fitting the zipper, only slightly caught over remaining hump. I can't ever see my wound. Relying on mirror settings, shadow, highlight, color imbalance, nothing is my back. I want to see for myself. Mom helps me into the tub. The water alters my scar a few degrees hotter. She washes in sections, circles the healing line. The loofah, like sandpaper, smooths, collects deadness in mesh. She nips scar near the nape. Inside, muscles ripple, two crashing cymbals gather in my fingertips. Remind me my body feels in all its places still. With a cool towel, she soothes, wipes biceps, neck, shoulder blades, works soap in, calmly, nothing like the preparation before. The surgery underneath her fingernails. Dusha moya, iodine hues, wash away with the blood. Parallel. This scar offers me a beginning, us without us. No, I want this. It's a paper-quilled spine. A scoliotic paper-quilled spine, I should say. That's important. The art of paper quilling. From the word filigree, like filling in earth, then filigree, tiny threaded jewels, slotted seeds become quill. Narrow rounded folds gathered to form ruff, gathered to cut feathers, form quilling. Now winding, the word mimics its action, a loop, a G, a backwards Q. Paper quilling requires gathering, flesh mountains, gate walls, spinal cord signals, overlap, skin over skin. Cut paper strips, roll, pinch, curls pieces into discs, heart scrolls, glue together, gather bodies into slotted tool. Roll tight or loose, always at the center a small crinkle. Needle tool smooths inner walls, a tunnel to what is coiled beneath. Possibilities for cocooning are endless, endless cocoons loop. Fragments of petals grow out of toothed metal. I favor the crimp tool. I have to stop here to tell you a joke. When I first wrote this draft, I accidentally wrote I favor the crimp tool, which I thought was really apt for this. Yeah. When I spool my strip, little valleys pour from its mouth, visible pieces of a skeleton, thoracic opening, body of the manubrium, angle of sternum, vertebral bodies, true ribs, false ribs, venous groove, floating rib, body of sternum. You can use anything to roll paper strips as long as you have a good grasp on the end. I use a pointed wood rod to leave a large beginning. Strips can be stretched to any length, hung from anything. My body is strip. Lately, I've been listening closer, how joyful to mold paper. Strips used to be sliced from gilded pages of books, hidden words foiled, decorated their own covers in gold metallic bodies. I fringe my poems into 3mm ribbons, wade through loose scrolls, star points, wishbones to see what threshes from, what already has a home in my body. The patient space between pain, lines of a quilled shape, cue a backwards G, quivers, gathers, 5-year-old self, braced 80-degree self, surgery self, 45-degree post-op self, every self. A single S scroll is a seed, 50 a sapling. Plant C scrolls with tweezers, gentle, steady. Watch how a spine earth is fill-greened from countless small pieces. How I bend into more. Thank you.
Thank you, Taya. Wasn't that amazing? Can we get another applause? About that conference. That is so true. Taya read her work and it was still like, I think on my old Samsung flip phone. And I was like, oh my God, I remember that now.
Yeah. I think that was like the moment where you're like, okay, you're allowed in my bubble. I'm pretty sure.
It solidified you in my bubble. Oh no, hold on. There we go. Okay, so we will open it up to the floor if you have any questions. But I have questions for Taya, and hopefully we'll have a little discussion. So, you know, use that time, let your questions percolate. Okay. Gosh, where to start? Okay. Would you say, or would you categorize How I Bend Into More as hybrid or experimental poetics?
Yes, I think I have to. I think because the book not only blends like visual media, it's also very experimental formatting wise. I really should send the designer a gift because she did such a great job. Yeah, I think I would say that it's an experimental long poem for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would recommend, like, of course, it's sonically beautiful and rich, but grab a copy because there's a lot visually going on, and it incorporates the quill work and scanography, and Taya has really taken care to sort of invent, I would say, well, what she and I suppose the publishers helped with, you know, calling the grammar of embodiment or the grammar of self. So I'll jump into my next question then.
Sure.
Would you say this grammar of self is uniquely yours, or is there a common grammar of disability / poetics?
I don't know that I would say there was a common grammar, but I do think that I've learned a lot from other disabled and ill poets where they typically mimicked on the page something that was going on in their body. Like, for example, like Travis Chiwing Lau mentioned that whenever he's in a lot of pain but writing poetry, he would put a backslash in his poems whenever there was like a moment of really intense pain. And that's kind of stuck with me the whole time I was writing this book, and sort of helped me sort of imagine what punctuation could do other than what it's meant to do. And so, and then I just got really playful with it. I was like, okay, I can do a bunch with periods. I can do a bunch with parentheses, which the book really relies on. And then I was thinking about how the paper-quilled shapes were also a kind of, I guess, punctuation for me in terms of like doing the act of creation, and that embodiment of self was made literal through the paper-quilled spine specifically. And so I think the sort of narrative arc of this like reclamation from a self that was just entrenched in so much ableism, to a self that is now starting to reclaim and heal from that. But it's also like the sort of metaphor of paper is like it can still sort of do whatever it wants. So it's like an ongoing process of like new, like the body is changing and the paper can change over time too. So I think like a bit of both. I was inspired by other poets doing cool things in relation to their bodies. And then I was thinking about what might be sort of unique to my own understanding of my body's sort of grammar. And that's kind of the book in a nutshell.
Just in a very large walnut shell. No, that's I hear you. I think you're right. You've got there's things that are unique to you, commonalities. I think that us crypt peeps
Yes.
can relate to. Which let me then ask you about the photos. So I think that was a new addition for me. I don't know that I knew there were photos in there before. I of course there's the written text and the quilled work, the scanography. And so I mean this book required so much reflection and openness and vulnerability, right? Because you share, a lot of deeply personal feelings and memories, family histories in there. Yeah, you were already vulnerable without photos. So tell us what made those photos necessary to the long poem.
Great question.
Oh, you're welcome.
Well, thank you to my early 2000s Tumblr account. Because I went on a deep dive. I was like, I wonder what I was like back then. And I found all these blog posts. And something that I used to do was take really grainy webcam photos of my back after a long day. And I would sort of talk about how much it like hurt more and how much more curved I looked. And then I thought about how like literally, unless I'm looking in a mirror or a camera, I can't see my back myself. I'm not an owl. I can't turn my head around. Wouldn't that be interesting? But yeah, so I was thinking, and the only ways I've really been able to properly sort of see what I look like from the back is with a camera, which I would set up on a tripod, fiddle around with settings to get it to take a picture. And typically I would do this myself without anybody helping me, which, there was shame attached to that, I think. But then it became a way to sort of like experiment with how my body was bending. And so there's this idea that like in the book that I can't literally see myself except in a reflection. And so so I was toying with that idea and how like this camera is revealing this sort of truth, but is it actually, because it's a reflection? And what else would I want to say about that? I'll just stop there because I don't remember.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But I get that. And that's actually, I picked up on that and I hadn't thought about that. I mean, I've known you for a while and it occurred to me when I was reading, I was like, well, yeah, you can't actually see the scoliosis. You have to rely on reflection, right? And like you say, whether it's a mirror or a camera, or, which you kind of talk about in your book, the eyes and hands of others.
Yes.
Right?
Or, people either saying, oh, I could never tell. It's like, well, okay. Or, other people telling me what I look like. And it's like, well, yeah, I have a mirror, but thanks. Like I went for an x-ray when I was having some digestive issues and the x-ray tech like literally looked at me, he's like, whoa, you got some curve there, girl. And I was like, yes. Thank you. I do. What? I regret. I really regret not going like, what? News to me. So,
well, exactly. So you have to use your own hands, which I think is really lovely. When you get to the end of the book, when you follow it through, it's this really soft landing at the end. So yeah, like Taya said, read it from start to finish. let me jump into something that I was thinking about because these questions occurred to me. So you or your speaker says, you know, I am, if I'm rid of my suffering, then will I still be me? And then when you're contemplating your post-surgery body, you ask something similar, will I still be me? And you, early on, you kind of nip at an answer. You say, if I don't exist, scoliosis doesn't either. And I mean, I've kind of thought about that too. You know, it's almost like a nature nurture. Am I me because I'm me, or am I me because of this disability? So would you say we are all still us without the disability that made us? Is it possible to still be I without the misaligned body? I know, so simple.
Yeah. That's a complicated question.
No, I know.
Well, I would love to hear your thoughts on this too, but I think the book says no. I don't think like that self just doesn't exist, so I can't really have an answer for. I think what I think is going on is that there's this ableist idea that cure is possible. And I think like when I went for surgery, I remember getting a card that was like, can't wait to see the new and improved Taya, which is in the book. And when I found that card, it struck me, I was like, wow, like I think people thought I would be a whole different person and that I would just not, you know, have any more pain. And boy, were they wrong. And I think like what I try to do with the book is sort of challenge this idea that there should be a necessary self that's not disabled, because there's that parallel voice where it's like offering the self without scoliosis, and then from the part that I read was like, no, I actually want this, because I don't think that there's a way to untangle yourself from it, and I don't think that I need to. And I resist that ableist idea that we need to, because you know people are uncomfortable with my pain and body. So yeah, what do you think?
Ooh, well, well, we both know. I think I'm more the like glass half empty person, and you're very much the bubbly, sparkling water. You know, half
That makes
full.
you burp a lot.
That makes you burp.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. But I think I it would be, I think, nice to think maybe myself was different from my physical self, but for me, I don't think that it's possible. I think that my bodily existence has very much influenced the I. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's okay to exist in all of those places. Like, I think it's okay to be like, I really hate the pain I'm in today.
Sure.
You know, and oh, you know those moments where you're like, oh right, I'm disabled, I can't do that.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
Yeah. Or when it's episodic, and then one day it's like, yeah, I can do a hike, and the next day you're like, why can't I lift this one thing? So yeah, I think it's complicated, and I think it changes.
Sure. Exactly. Does anybody else does anybody have any questions for Taya now that we've been?
We can keep yapping.
Yeah, Taya and I need to mark off like 3-4 hours when we FaceTime, because it's true. That's true. Oh, that young lady there that I don't know at all.
It's her niece.
What inspired you to be a book and poetry writer?
Great question. For folks online, I was asked what inspired for me to write a book of poetry about this. Well, I always had a knack for poetry and I just liked it, but I also found that it was the most playful form that I could write this experience in. I don't think an essay would have lent itself very well to all of the formal play that I wanted to do. Yeah, thank you.
Nice. Great answer. Anyone else? I know they're burning in there. John.
How do you think about your work in the context of, I'll just call it like prairie disability culture or Saskatchewan disability culture?
Whoa.
Good.
My back shivered.
For folks online, John asked how I would consider my work within the, I guess, canon of prairie disability literature and culture. That's a great question. I don't know. I want to see, I guess, more of it, and I am seeing a lot more through like Listen to Dis and well, journalists like yourself and
This was not a.
no, I know. I'm made of a lot of people, like I've gotten here with this book, not just by myself. I think with Elena's work too, like your work inspires me all the time. So I think like disabled prairie culture and literature is really growing, and I'm excited to see where it goes. This does not answer your question.
Yeah.
Well, not as much as I'd like to, but
Yeah.
I think I need to think more about it. How about you, Elena?
Well, I think with your book, I think the way it fits in is that it kind of blasts open, like, and I think you move the conversation, forward, and inspire others to kind of delve in and play. Because as kind of heavy and heart-wrenching as it is sometimes to read, like you say, you've played with form and you've had this, like I say, this lovely coming to the end, even though it's not always lovely. And I think that's part of it too, is you opened up that conversation, like you said tonight, that it's okay to hate those days and hate those moments of walking in and, oh man, that's a flight of stairs. Or especially, in Saskatchewan, right? Like we don't have this bustling, like downtown Toronto transit system, right? We're driving and, so there's a lot of, there's 3 hours or 2.5 between here and Regina. What do you do?
Yeah.
Right? That's
You sit
a
in the car like I
mobility
did
challenge.
this morning in pain.
Right, exactly. Or mobility scooters. I mean, these are Saskatchewan roads and sidewalks. It's,
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know if you've seen Ace Ventura, but that's what it's like, and he's, that's what it's like, right?
I will say that when I lived in Peterborough in Ontario, it was so hilly there, and I didn't realize how much I missed our flat hills. I was like, bless Saskatchewan. I can go for a long walk and not like hurt everywhere.
Sure. Exactly.
That's very kind. Thank you.
Thanks for the challenge, John.
Oh,
Other questions?
Your book is beautiful
Thank you.
and also your voice.
Thank you.
Is this on audiobook?
No,
Oh.
not yet. Someone write to my publisher.
Palimpsest, if you're watching.
You heard Amy? If you're watching.
We need an audiobook, please.
Yeah.
That's very nice. Thank you. Thank you.
Other burning questions?
What about you, Elena? Do you have more?
I always have more. Jasper, I guess that's the question is, when would you like us to stop?
You have 10 more minutes.
Oh, okay.
Look at us go.
Look at us go. Let me return to my questions. Okay. All right. If someone has no familiarity with, disability poetics, what would you say are some of the hallmarks?
Okay, I need to get to the theory part of my brain. Well, the one thing that sort of sticks out is poetry that is embodied in some way, but also I think, why can't I think of their name? It'll come to me, but they sort of say like it's poetry that disrupts. And I took that to heart, which really annoyed my mother reading this book. I was like, did you read it? And she goes, yeah. I was like, what did you think? And she was like, well, I had to figure out how to understand it first. And then my dad, bless him, he opens the book and he's like, "Tia, but where are all the words?" I was like, "Dad, it's poetry." He's like, "But where are all the words?" And I was like, "Oh, that's all you're getting." And then my husband Matt goes, "Well, you have to get the DLC for that."
Yeah.
So whoever, yeah. Yeah, so I think going back to your question, it's poetry that sort of disrupts the reading process, I think, and poetry that sort of surprises maybe. I think it's also poetry that goes against your expectations or traditions. Yeah, just like asymmetric. What do you think?
Sure, yeah. And I think there's a lot of community
Mhm,
in there.
definitely.
I
Yeah.
think that's I mean, I think that's with all poetry, right? We're always, influenced. And even in the back of your book, you say to all those unknown or
Mhm.
subconscious sort of
Mhm.
influences, I think there has to be a bit of community and support and building on other poems and being inspired.
Totally. And I
Yeah.
really do think that any kind of writing is the friends that you make along the way. And yeah, like I don't think I'd be here without like you and a lot of people here. Like it's just
Yeah, you need the community, you need the help.
Yeah.
For sure. Right?
well, as disabled people, like like we need to be interdependent. And I think that's really important. As living in a society that wants to crush us by individualism.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to do that.
Well, sure. And this is not on my typed sheet that I sent you.
Oh, no.
But but I think one of the hallmarks too is maybe we can talk a little bit about crypt time,
Mhm.
like what that maybe means for.
Can you explain what crypt time is, Elena?
Sure. We work at our own pace. Does that
Yeah,
seem like it could?
that's a very good too long didn't read version. Yeah. Yeah, I think I mean, for me, I'm someone that does everything very slow. I mean, this book took like 10 years to write, and in different ways. And like I'm a paper quilling artist, which is like the longest art form I could have chosen, which I think is why I love it, because it's such a crisp art form. It takes weeks to finish one little thing. So yeah, like I think we embody doing anything very slowly and like the book says, like at my own pace, I'm building this self.
Exactly. Which I think for writers can feel can be a challenge when you've got so many deadlines and you're almost expected to attend this and get your name out there and but it's like I'm
To
tired.
produce.
Yeah, I'm tired. Like, it's hard. And for anybody, right? With families and kids and lives and then add that extra layer. Right.
Yeah.
Did that spark any questions? Anybody brave enough? Oh, Leah.
Now that I know this 10-year process, is the book that you pitched to Palimpsest the book that you ended up with by the time it hit?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Sure. So Leah's asking if the book that I pitched to Palimpsest is the book that you hold in your hands tonight. Yes. So this book I was writing in different ways throughout my undergrad, I would say. And some of the poetry was also part of my master's project at the U of R. And that project focused more on the war. And then I was like, this is two different projects. And so then I went into the MFA program at USask and pitched the idea of focusing in on this sort of scoliosis experience. And so at that point, it's already been, I don't know, 7 years. And so then I worked with Jennifer Still as my mentor during the program. And then after the program, I gave it to other disabled poet friends. And we finished the manuscript. And then I met Jim Johnstone, who was my editor at Palimpsest and also the poetry acquisitions editor, and was like, thank goodness I had to write an artist statement for my MFA because I was like, here is a pitch. This is what my book is about. And he was like, send it to me. And I did. And then 2 days later, he emails me back and goes, yeah, I want this. I was like, oh my gosh. So, and then it took 2 years to be a book. So yeah. It surprised me during the process because what I thought the book was going to be, it definitely was not, and I surprised myself. I don't know why. I didn't realize it was going to be so nostalgic, but then I was like, well, of course it is. You were 17 during this surgery. So yeah, yeah. Thanks for that question, Leah.
Yeah, that's really great. And another, I think, example of how long it can take to have a project on the go. Right, to have patience with it, with yourself, with the publishers, right? Because I think, right, when you had said that you got accepted, you're like, but it's coming out in 2025. I was like, oh, 2 years. My goodness, I'm impatient. But I think it's, you know,
Publishing is
oh,
slow.
we've got the 5-minute mark. Any last minute thoughts before we close things down for
I mean,
tonight?
I think we can end a little early if we need to.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy to keep chatting with you.
We'll definitely
always.
go over 5 minutes if we start yapping.
Exactly. Well, then I will start to say thank you. Thank you to everyone who came in person. Thank you to everybody online. I am so glad to see everybody here and to support Tea. She's got another launch. The celebration continues in Prince Albert at the Prince Albert Public Library on May 12th. So if you can follow that one as well. Do you have anything after that? Or is that the last stop on the tour?
No, I'm in Edmonton on May 29th. as
Okay.
well, with poet Jason Purcell and artist Chelsea Campbell.
Nice. Very exciting. So thank you to McNally. Thanks, Tea, for asking me to be a part of this.
Thank you, Elena.
I'm very, my heart is just blooming for you tonight. So.
Thank you everyone for coming and everyone online and Jasper for all your help with this event. And yeah, I look forward to chatting with all of you. This is when we sign off. At the end of the podcast.